Hey, you guys, welcome to Disruptor Discussions. My name is Jennifer Fry, and I host this. This is our second season of our Disruptor Discussions Masterclass. We started it last year because at my business, which is Appreciated Asset, our mission is to create a ripple effect for incredible business solutions and helping them grow their footprint through our service and our efforts. And what I realized as we've grown our business and as we've worked with more and more clients through the years, that there are zero problems in a business that more revenue cannot solve. I have yet to find a single one. And while we do that for our clients, we help them increase their revenues through setting new business appointments for them and helping them get more sales. We realize that there's so many other experts that have, through their area of expertise, the ability to help businesses grow their revenue as well. So I started the Disruptor Discussions Masterclass because, first of all, I believe deeply in the power of disruption. I think that being bold and strong enough to stand out and disrupt the status quo in your space is one of the most powerful things that you can do, not just to create impact, but to create legacy. And I wanted to have an opportunity to create community around these discussions where we can highlight a different expert every single week, where they come in and they present to you about how their expertise helps businesses grow and helps businesses really, really impact their bottom line. And I'm so excited to have Stephanie here today. I'm going to share an introduction about Stephanie here in a moment with you guys. I always like to share something new that's we've got going on at Appreciated Assets. So this week, well, actually last week, since we were last on, we have been approved by the SCRA as a featured partner for them. The SCRA is the South Carolina Research Authority that works primarily with startup businesses in the state. We are super proud and excited to be listed as a preferred vendor with them and a partner, and look forward to a long relationship, really helping the businesses in our state grow. And we do that with businesses, of course, across the country as well. Okay, I am going to tell you guys about Stephanie. So we met a couple of years ago through a women's networking group that we have both been a part of for a long time, and really hit it off. We have been fortunate enough to get to meet in person quite a few times over the years as well, which has been super fun considering we're across the country from each other. Before I read this incredibly impressive bio, the thing I want you to know about Stephanie is that she is one of the most genuine, heart-centered entrepreneurs I've ever had the pleasure of working with. She cares so deeply about her clients, about her business, about the work that she does and puts out there in the world. And I've always really admired the integrity that she brings, to an industry that, quite honestly, the output that you get depends on the vendor you work with and the partner that you choose. And I've certainly, seen a lot of different areas of that spectrum when it comes to marketing and branding. And Stephanie just has always held herself to the highest caliber and really inspired others, including myself, to do the same. So in addition, she is a badass single mom like yours truly. And so we've got that to bond over. And, I think, kind of side note, guys, when you have something like that and you've been through those shared experiences, it really does help you see each other through a much different lens. But having other single moms in my world, and I see a couple of others on this call today, I will shout out to you later, Patty Farmer. You cannot be what you cannot see. And when I started my business, and I was also in the middle of a pretty contentious divorce, I did not know any other single mothers who were able to provide for their kids and keep them in a lifestyle that was that wasn't sacrificing what maybe they had in their prior family life. And being able to now say that I know all of these incredible women who are walking the walk and sacrificed where they needed to provide for their kids, but didn't have to be these women working 3 jobs and miserable and really unhappy and just always struggling and paycheck to paycheck. Like we see quite often in the media, right? We see that version of the single mom a lot. Stephanie is a single mom who is thriving and raising a really incredible young man. And just being the example that you don't have to be miserable to be successful, and you don't have to choose. And so I thank you for being an example and something that I could see and grow towards in my career. So, okay. Whew. I'm going to read this bio to you before I wax on about her, because she is just an incredible human. So Stephanie Sidebottom is a brand and AI strategist with over 10 years of experience. Guys, I need reading glasses. It's enough already. With over 10 years of experience in a small business branding and marketing, as well as a decade leading an award-winning brand agency, Wax Creek, specializing in high-impact 6-figure rebranding projects. She's helped entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and businesses craft powerful, aligned brand identities that drive visibility, credibility, and revenue. Now she's at the forefront of AI-powered branding, helping businesses merge strategy with technology to create brands that are both deeply personal and highly scalable. Through brand archetyping, AI-driven marketing, and identity strategy, she ensures her clients stand out, attract premium clients, and leverage AI to grow faster. Stephanie is also the creator of Brand Genie, a revolutionary AI-powered branding tool that helps multi-passionate entrepreneurs bring their brand to life in minutes. Her mission is to ensure every entrepreneur has a brand identity that feels fully aligned, a message that converts, and an AI strategy that works for them, not against them. So, Stephanie, I'm going to hand things over to you in one moment. Guys, let you know if this is your first time here. If you have questions, please put them in the chat and we will make sure to get to them. We also this season now have a hot seat every single week. So the way that works is if you are interested in being a hot seat participant and getting to work directly with Stephanie on an area in your business that deals with brand identity and using AI to really dig down, let us know. You can DM me or Joey, our producer, and just let us know if you're interested in that. If no one volunteers, then you force me in the hot seat, and I've got to put my money where my mouth is and get vulnerable, which is my absolute favorite thing to do. But I'm happy to, because man, any opportunity to get access to this beautiful brain is a really exciting one. So without further delay, Stephanie, please take over. Thank you so much for being here, and I cannot wait to learn from you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was the best introduction anybody's ever given me. So thank you. That was magical. And I feel the exact same way about you. And you're one of the people I've always looked up to since the minute I met you. And so your strength and the example you're setting and the way you own your disruptive rebel nature is very admirable to me. It's truly. So I really appreciate that. So today I'm super excited to talk about this because these two topics are literally my favorite things to talk about, which is going to be brand archetyping and AI. And I want to start this by saying I started out as an like an AI resistor. I was like, because in really professional branding, right, and copywriting work and messaging and strategy, it felt like the opposite of that. Like this is the cheap, easy version. We're not going to get good results. And so that's really how I started out when AI first hit the market a couple of years ago. And then, pretty quickly thereafter, I started using it. And I was like, let's see what all the hype is about. And then about a month into it, I started to realize this is probably going to take my job someday. And that is a real threat to me and to a lot of people right now. And so I adopted the idea that I was going to make sure I spent 15 minutes a day learning AI so that it didn't replace me. And as I started to work on that and go through my 15 minutes a day, I started to realize every single day my brain was exploding of new information, of new possibilities, of new techniques, of new use cases. And then I became obsessed with it. So that's kind of the history here on how I got to this level. And I think what makes this really special for me in particular is my knowledge and experience working with brand archetypes just seems to be like a match made in heaven with AI and programming AI and customizing it. And the reason for that is because AI, all of the AI engines are language models, right? And so they're not synthesizing a bunch of formulas and numbers and data, and they can do that. But at the core, they're synthesizing language and words and concepts. And so when we start to understand the strength of this, right? Of synthesizing concepts that are too hard for our brain to do by itself. Being able to layer all of these different things and then take that and add it all together and create outputs is where its true magic lies. And so that really is how I've fallen into this place of archetypes plus AI equals magic. And those are the offers and the products I'm creating now because honestly, I'm on a mission to show this work and to show the possibilities and the potential to as many people as possible. Because if you aren't using it this way, you're missing out. It's so time saving and it's so money saving. And on top of that, it's not just an efficiency thing. AI and the work I am doing with AI seriously impresses me, explodes my brain, like gets me to the level that sometimes I have to call a friend almost every single day to be like, you're not going to believe this output or this thing that I just created and the work it did. I'm talking about it multiple times a day. And that is my mission, is that everybody needs to know about this and how to use this and how to start getting into it so it feels comfortable and aligned and helpful and efficient and all the things. Okay. Yeah. Everybody good? All right. So what we're going to really specifically talk about today is customizing AI to sound like your brand. And this is a really big point. I want to spend just a minute on this because I need to stress how important this is. We're very, very in tune, even if it's subconscious, with how things are, how words and how messages are coming into our brains, right? And if you haven't already started to notice things that were written by generic AI, you will soon. It has a flavor. It uses kind of the same words. We're going to look at some of those things. There are just things every time I see the word thrilled, like we're thrilled to blah, 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 or something like, and cheers to this and the whatever, XYZ, like you're like, yeah, that's definitely AI generated. You start to get that sense. And even if you're not consciously registering it, I promise you that you are going to start subconsciously registering it. And this is why this is so important. When we're talking about branding, we're talking about standing out. We're talking about being different, about catching people's attention. And so if you're using AI, great. But if you're using generic AI in not very much time because it's moving so fast, you are at risk of just moving to a different sea of sameness. And that is going to be problematic for brands. So it's kind of like a catch-22, like good for you if you're using it, but also we need to elevate so that you don't get stuck there because it's going to give you the opposite of what you're looking for if you get stuck in the sea of sameness. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. All right, so what we're going to talk about today and have time for questions and specifics is how to align AI with your brand's voice and energy. Here's some generic phrases that I see all the time. You guys probably do too, but this is like I don't know, AI says these things to me at least 8 times a day. That's a great question. Let me answer that, blah, blah, blah. It depends on the context. Let me know if you need further clarification. Cheers to many more, fill in the blank. So that's what we're trying to get away from here. And the way that we're going to do this is by talking about brand archetypes, which turn into brand personality. Also, we're going to hold this container for voice and tone. And the reason that we use archetypes in brand work, because archetypes, the concept has really been around since the early 1900s. They were, the first idea of archetyping was created by Carl Jung. And so it's really this idea that all human beings have this intrinsic knowledge and ability to understand these characters, this type of energy, right? And so if I tell you that we're talking about a hero brand, they're going, we all understand what that kind of looks like, and probably even what it looks like a little bit. You can see the bold fonts and maybe some blues and grays and blacks with an accent of red, right? Like that feels very hero. We also can understand the story of the fairy godmother that is here to save somebody who needs help, right? And we have all of these 12 different characters. And so really, when you think about archetypes, especially as it pertains to a brand, we're going to think about it sort of as like humanizing your brand, right? Your brand and any human is not one-dimensional, right? So you're not just one of these things. You're going to be able to tell in this presentation by the visuals that I have a lot of magician energy. It's very clear. I talk about it. I use words in that. It's just who I am as a person, honestly. And that translates a little bit over into my branding. But we also need to understand that our brands are dimensional, right? And so we're not just one thing. I'm not just a magician. I'm a magician with a little bit of explorer energy and a little bit of creator energy and a little bit of ruler energy. And that's just kind of the 4 archetypes I've chosen to represent my brand. When you think about archetypes, I want you to think about the energy you lead with, right? So let's just talk about a few of these. Caregiver energy versus hero energy. They're very similar in nature, right? They're helping people, they're rescuing people, they're there to support. But caregiver leads with nurturing and service. And a common caregiver energy could be like, don't worry, we're going to hold your hand through this whole process. We care so deeply about your experience in this. And we're here, we've got your back. Whereas the hero energy is going to be a little bit more assertive, right? Like, we're here to save the day. We're going to rescue you. We're going to liberate you out of whatever situation this is, right? So it's similar, but different. A couple of good brand examples I'm going to use here. The first one is Charles Schwab, okay? So Charles Schwab, like if you just say the name, right? Charles Schwab, it sounds like a sage brand, right? It is. They are a sage brand. They're dealing in money. They're experts. They're wise. Charles Schwab is a very sage name. They use the color blue because it's safe and trustworthy. It's sage. But when Charles Schwab turned and changed their branding to Talk to Chuck, they became an everyman brand, right? And they did that super intentionally. They became Talk to Chuck because they were trying to be more approachable. They were trying to present this story of like, we're for everybody. Like, we're your next door neighbor. We're your best friend. We're like just a guy you're hanging out with at the bar. We can help you with your money too. That's the Talk to Chuck energy. So they intentionally used their archetyping energy to really enter a new market. And they did it very, very successfully. Another good example, and I hate this example because I'm going to use Starbucks, but it's because it's so cool and amazing to think about. So Starbucks is an explorer brand, right? So explorers are like in pursuit of like this, living life to the fullest and experiencing things and trying things and like deep, like self-discovery. Who am I really? What is the point of being here on this earth? Like, that's a lot of explorer energy. We see that a lot in like outdoor brands or vehicle brands, but also in like youthful brands, right? Because teenagers are very much explorers. They're, no matter who they end up being, they all go through an explorer stage in their teenagers. But so Starbucks took this explorer idea, and first of all, their logo is like a mermaid, and Starbuck is actually the name of the first mate in Moby Dick. right? So they've got all this explorer energy going. If you pay attention when you go into a Starbucks, the inside looks like a ship. It's got dark wood and all these, brassy kind of furnishings. And then the most brilliant way that they use this explorer energy is that they make us feel like explorers when we go into a Starbucks, right? You get to go in, and it's so encouraged to order a 20 list ingredient coffee, right? I want a triple espresso, caramel macchiato with decaf, with this, with a sprinkle of cinnamon. Like, it's insane, really. It's totally crazy. And nobody ever makes fun of you for ordering that. They're just like writing it all down, like, yeah, what's your name? And then they yell it all out. And they make us feel like true individuals via coffee. And so what Starbucks has done is they've actually used this to create one of the most high performing brands in the world, whose target market is a group of people that don't even really like coffee, but they like being an individual. And so Starbucks is using this to sell coffee to people that aren't really coffee drinkers, which I think is mind-blowing, honestly. It's really incredible what they've done. And so I just want you to think about that. These are the subtle nuances that we see, when we're in a Starbucks, but the things we're not thinking about is like, what is this archetypal energy that's powering this engine that's happening, and all this content, and the way we feel, and the way we experience a brand, and the words that they say, and the furniture they pick out. It should all be tied together, and it should all be intentional. So that is archetyping 101. And so here is kind of a different list to look at this. And what we're looking at here, the 12 archetypes, here's their leading energy, right? This is the leading brand energy. And then here's some examples of brands that fit into these archetypes. And so what I'm going to do next is ask you to kind of like maybe jot down, for everybody that's here live, we can talk about this in the Q&A a little bit more, but what I'm going to ask us next is to jot down these top 3 or 4 archetypes that you think exist in your personal brand or in your business brand, and kind of self-identify those and figure out which ones feel the best. And you should have a pretty good idea of this. And I'm going to even ask you, Jennifer, do you have any that you're identifying with as we're kind of going through this in your brand?
The rebel, 100,000%. But it's actually interesting because the examples are not necessarily the ones that I would identify with where I want my brand to really line up. Virgin, maybe. So the rebel for sure in the energy. And then the ruler, I think, as well. I think I've got a lot of ruler energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely see in everything I know about you some rebel energy, right? Like, you're not, this show is the Disruptor discussion show, right? Like, there's so much Disruptor energy. So like, you're owning that really well, right? And that carries over into everything you're doing, and the way that clients work with you and how they experience it is like breaking the chains, like breaking the status quo. Like, we're not doing things the same. We're going to do them differently. And it's edgy and bold and super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to move on from this, and I'm going to give you just a minute to self-identify these things. And what I want you to really think about is using this energy, right? Using these characters. You can start to see how we're going to layer this information into a bot, right? Into a custom bot. We're going to use these archetypes to dictate personality, and then we're going to use personality to dictate voice and tone. And we're going to keep going down the different layers of this and nuance, and then we can add it in to a custom bot. And I'm going to show you in real time some outputs of that, and the different vibes that you get from different brand bots that I've built for clients or for my own brands, to show you how the voice and tone and how it writes different things, and how it can put together social media posts that are much more on brand than just generic AI. And what I want you to think about too, before we move on from this, is if your AI that you were using could match your brand's voice, what could you use it for? And truly, like, the possibilities are endless in this, right? I mean, we have content creation, of course, but it also, once it understands your brand and the brand experience and the brand energy, it can help you ideate. It can help you come up with new ideas. It can help you come up with really edgy newsletter content. It can also help you in sales calls, right? Or analyzing different things in different areas of your business. This isn't just a content creator. It can truly be used in every way possible. One of my favorite ways to use these custom bots is ideation and helping me bridge those gaps sometimes and the blind spots that we all have in our own brands and our own marketing and our own ideation. It's so useful in helping us to get unstuck. All right, so hopefully if you're here live, you've written down the 3 or 4 that feel the best or most aligned with your brand. If you can, you should try to identify your primary archetype. We do want to lead with one energy, right? All archetyping experts say that you should really have one primary archetype, and that is not to confuse your market. My add-on to that would be, yes, but let's also kind of think about this in a way where we're synthesizing those different energies, right? So if Jennifer is a ruler rebel, right? What does that ruler rebel look like together? What is that person, how does that energy show up? Because it has a lot of leadership qualities. And rulers, a lot of times people think of rulers as like evil kings or something, but I want you to think of actually more like benevolent queens, leaders that care about their people, that show the way, leaders that show other people how to disrupt their own industries, leaders that coach people on not being afraid, on stepping out and taking those chances and doing the things that scare us, right? That is ruler rebel energy. And so we don't have to have this like, well, I lead with rebel and then it's ruler, like synthesize it, right? And then build that character and keep adding to it. And then that's your primary archetype.
Stephanie, as you go through this, can you flip back briefly to the last slide? Yeah, I think we just wanted to I think everyone can probably identify number 1 and 2 for themselves, but when you get to like level 3, it gets a little
Can we
more
also see
difficult,
the one
right?
before? Because that really visually meant
Oh,
more
the
to me than
round.
that
Yeah,
one.
there
That
we go.
really resonated. Thank you just for a second.
Sure. Yeah, and just like a little sneak peek at the end, I'm going to share a page on my website that also has a button where you can take a free archetype assessment, and I will send back your top 3 or 4 archetypes, depending on how it's graded and ranked. So you're going to have an opportunity, if it's kind of hard to self-identify, to take that. It's my gift to you to take that assessment and get some expert opinion and feedback on what those look like.
Thank you. That's helpful.
All right.
I got to tell you something. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
That's
one of
okay.
the interesting things about this is that my brand colors are also aligned with my archetype, which is super interesting.
Yeah, and they should be. So like sometimes these things we know subconsciously, right? Like,
Right.
and that is, think about when we're talking about creating trust, right? If you have a very feminine, nurturing brand, right? Let's say it's leading with caregiver energy or an innocent energy, right? Like Dove or baby products. Like there's a lot of innocent energy in there. But your font is like really aggressive and like really thick and like black, and it like has animation and it like flies in at the screen, and you're like, what is happening? First of all, it doesn't feel good because your brain can't quite understand what's happening. And so you just leave. Like, we don't have tolerance to be like, let me understand why this doesn't feel good. We just move on. And so all these things do need to be aligned, right? The words you say, the way they look, the colors you use, the aggressive animation, like it all needs to make sense within this archetypal realm. All right, so now we're going to move on to taking it a step further. What are the personality traits that describe your brand, right? And here's just a handful of examples, right? I really encourage you to actually explore this with ChatGPT, right? Have it give you a lot of ideas, right? Work with it. Figure out what are these 3 or 4 or 5 personality traits, And really, the fewer you have, the better, because it helps you be, more succinct and clear. If you have 25 words, like, then who are you really? If you can try to limit it to as few as possible, that really is where we get to the magic of branding, right? Branding is all about simplifying. So it's not telling everybody the 35-page slide deck about what you do. It's about saying what you do in one sentence, in 5 words, in one character or personality style, right? So try to keep it as few as possible. And so I put some fun words in here too, because a lot of the time, when I ask clients this, they're like, well, it's integrity, it's, we're trustworthy, we're hardworking, we're efficient, whatever it is, but like, try to think a little bit bigger than that. And then the last step here, and I'm not going to give you too much time on these 2 steps because I want to get to some real life examples of this, is what is the voice and tone, right? Now we have this archetype umbrella. We've got some personality traits below that. Going even a little bit deeper into it, what is the voice and tone of the brand? And really think about this. Again, I encourage you not to say things like friendly, trustworthy, experience. Try to go further than that. Try to brainstorm different ideas. And again, this is where ChatGPT can help you tremendously. Figuring out what are these parameters. And it could even be like, I'm bold and disruptive, but not rude, right? Like creating kind of parameters on both sides. I'm mystical and deep, but not too woo-woo. Like that's me, probably. You can create some parameters here and really think and put some time into what should your brand voice sound like. Oops. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing here. And now I'm going to share a different screen. I'm going to pull up a couple of different GPT bots that are pre-programmed with different archetypes, different voice and tone, different personality. And so before we get into this, there's a couple of ways to do this. The first way is to create your own GPT bot, right? So in order to do that, you have to pay for the upgraded $20 a month GPT Plus. And there's other, Claude is also great. I use Claude a lot also. I am the most experienced in GPT. We get along really well. We just have been smooth sailing for a long time now. So it is my preferred platform, but I know there's a lot of different ones that people like. This and Claude are my personal favorites. Once you have the upgraded plan here, you can go to Explore GPTs, and then you can go up here to Create. And that is going to give you the ability to start working on building this new bot. And that's where you're going to want to program in this information. The alternative to that, if you don't want to pay for the upgraded, you just want to play in it, is I would encourage you to write all of this down, in a Word document or a notepad type of thing. Give it your archetypes, your voice and tone, personality traits. Throw in as much information as you possibly can. Core values. You could give it your website to analyze. You could upload your, any documents that talk about your offerings. You could upload even videos of you or links to videos of you presenting or speaking on stage for it to get an idea of your style. This is the kind of exercise where you want to give it more than less, right? More is more in this instance. Give it everything you possibly can that matters. You can even give it a state of affairs in your world, in your life, in your business, whatever you need it to know, give it to it straight. Don't hold anything back. Of course, be mindful of privacy. There's still a lot of concern about what you're putting in here, could be used again, which we'll talk about that a little bit, but just be mindful of that. Give it everything you can. And then every time you start a session with GPT, copy and paste that information so that you are programming the voice and tone and the personality and the archetypes and everything we just talked about into that copy and paste. Even if it's 40 pages long or it's a huge slide deck, just upload it every single time and say, use this as the foundation, and then start working on your copy. This is going to be how you start to get away from that generic sounding copy and outputs and things that you're like, I don't understand the hype about this. It's not that good. This is the problem. And so, or this is the hack really to make it better. Okay, do we have about 3 more minutes, Jennifer, to go through a couple of these?
Yeah, I was just gonna say what we could possibly do is if someone has volunteered for a hot seat, we could put them on the hot seat and go through these in real time. If that's something that, and really see how they work in real time. Or, if there's other questions around there, but yes, you've got about 3 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So let's, I have some prompts copied and pasted already. So this is a luxury car rental, high-end car rental brand. And so called Title Luxury. So like if you need a Lambo next weekend, like these are your guys here. And so, oops, I'm just gonna say describe your brand voice, right? So these are bots that I've already built. So I just want to kind of show you a little bit about how these output just a little bit differently. So this is it's going to give me options. So sometimes it does this when it's testing new models of GPT. And so this one here, let me pick one. I'm going to use the bullet point one because it already feels better to me. But it's essentially saying refined yet playful, indulgent and sensory, confident and charismatic, aspirational but approachable, transformational and experiential. So I'm going to say I prefer this one. Right. So it also has this like seductive and alluring, like that's not generic AI work, right? So it knows the parameters of this brand. And now I'm going to ask it if it can create a voice and tone graph for this brand, just to give you oops, did I copy and paste? Just to show you like the graphic abilities too here, right? Like if it's helpful to visualize this, it's just gonna like give me a bunch of voice and tone data. And so one way you could do this is you could plug in your website, or like I said, videos of you speaking on stage. You could have it analyze it, see how good you're coming across compared to what you want to be coming across as, right? It might be a perfect match, it might be different. That's a problem in cohesion, right? So this is going to give me all sorts of graphs. It's got, it's going to give us this expressive versus reserved, formal versus casual. Here's a breakdown of tone in different contexts. So the website homepage might be elevate your arrival, experience the thrill of luxury on your terms. Some cars turn heads, ours stop traffic, ready to drive, right? So it's like, you can see it's very, very specific for this brand. So this makes it easy when they're like, Stephanie, we need this new copy for this About Us page. I can just work with this bot, and I still have to refine it and use my expertise and make, and the high level messaging, making sure it's spot on. But this is like giving me something to work with here and something to iterate. 80% of the work that I need to do. And now let's just go over here and ask this one the exact same question, which is describe your brand voice. Oh, I don't know why that's not working every single time. Okay, describe your brand voice. And this one is for a company called Pool Queen, which you're going to see the style of it here in just a minute. Pool Queen is super fun, and I don't know, it's a little bit like it's a gesture brand, so it's entertaining, it's funny, it's witty, it's quick. So this brand is, clear and concise, it's engaging and entertaining, trustworthy and relatable, community focused. And then we'll ask it to do the same thing as to create a voice and tone. I'll just type it. And you're going to see a totally different output. And this is a different style graph also. So, you never know sometimes what GPT is going to give you. We're lighthearted with a purpose. We're confident and supportive. We're personable and engaging. Here's how this might play out in communication. Your pool is looking great. We balanced the chlorine, cleaned the filters, and removed a few rogue leaves trying to sneak in. It's got this like different kind of feel to it. And it's lighthearted, sunny skies and a sparkling pool. What more could you ask for, right? So you can see how this transforms to multiple layers of content. So I'm going to stop there because I could show these for days, weeks, really. But that is just to give you kind of a sneak peek glimpse into the possibilities of using this in your AI work.
In a few minutes, you guys, Stephanie will put all of the contact information out there in the chat. So if you have any specific questions you want to get with Stephanie after this, you will have full access to do so. Thank you so much. My brain is kind of on fire.
I know, isn't it great?
Fighting every ADHD impulse that I have to get on ChatGPT, like while you're talking.
I know.
And do this. And I'm like, no, stop, focus. Squirrel. It's just the fun side of my crazy brain. Thank you. That was really exciting, and put it, for me anyway, in terms where I can really see, like, how does this translate for my business? Specifically, what can I do? Question for you. And I mentioned to you, I recently went to a workshop about personal brand voice. How do you meld using AI, your personal brand voice and your business brand voice? A lot of times for entrepreneurs, they're pretty in sync.
Yeah.
But how do you use something through AI to really meld the two?
I would actually, I mean, for me, I have two separate bots. I actually have a bot for every single offering and area that I'm providing in my business. And I also have a personal brand bot, and I use them differently. And you should have some separation between your business brand and your personal brand, right? And actually it looks more like this. There's going to be overlap in the middle, a lot of it, right? I'm a magician. All of my brands have some element of magician. I can't pull it out. It doesn't feel aligned if it doesn't have that.
Right.
However, there should be a degree of separation because it helps you know the parameters when you're speaking about your personal brand or stuff you believe in, or, getting up on that soapbox for, something on LinkedIn. It might be more of a personal brand angle. And so you might want to use those parameters versus something very, that you're writing copy for on your business website. They're different. So I would actually build two.
Okay. So I will definitely have to dive deeper into that one. But in terms of another thing we talked about right before this call is you were talking about using ChatGPT in lieu of Google, of like where we're probably headed with AI.
Yes.
That people are going to be searching ChatGPT. And I've already noticed that I do it in some capacity. And I think that's super interesting. So I just kind of wanted to reiterate that, because I think that this is another way that AI will change our day to day in the way we gather information. So
absolutely. Yeah. So I have a couple of little notes about that. One is this idea. I was at this personal development retreat a couple weeks ago in Hawaii. And so this is a personal development retreat, Hawaii kind of idea, but I want to just say it. AI is as close as we've ever been to collective consciousness, right? And so that's just an interesting thing I'm just going to leave there for everyone to ponder, right? When you start talking collective consciousness, to get there would need a self identity. And when AI crosses that bridge, we've got a lot of things to talk about, right? Good and bad. And every amazing strength has amazing challenges, right? Big shadows, scary things, but it has equal strength and amazing qualities. I just want to kind of point that out. That is the premise of archetypes, right? Strength equals equal challenge. And they have their counterbalance. And so that's a side note to ponder later. But the second thing is, my personal belief is that AI will overtake search engines and basically how we consume and find information very soon. And so my thought on that is that we need to be training AI, and this can be training a generic bot on us, right? Like if you have a personal visible brand, you should be training AI about who you are, about who your business is, because eventually it's going to pick up all of that training material and use it in the next iteration. So every day you should be saying things like, Stephanie Sidebottom is, and I want to fill in the blank. I want to fill in the blank with all the things that I want people to find when they're searching that. what is Wax Creek, an agency? What is Brand Genie? This offer that I have, right? We need to be programming those things. And I'm hoping that we're early adopters in this, because I don't think most people are thinking about this, but I think that this is going to overtake most traditional SEO at some point, right? And there's going to be ways that we can manipulate it and pay for advertising and pay for ranking and things like that. But at its core, if we can train AI on those things, like think about that magnified in 2 years.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. And I think for the third question I'm going to ask you, that's probably where we'll circle back. Tell me, what's the biggest misconception about using AI in branding?
I think the biggest misconception is that it's going to be generic, that it's not going to be good. And that I think that people probably go in, try it, and they're like, this isn't right. This isn't capture me. I have to change it too much. It sounds bad. It sounds like generic AI. And so they're moving away from it too quick without spending the time to front load it with all this information and really working with it to create this beautiful symbiotic relationship where it truly can be very effective in your business. And when I'm talking very effective, I'm talking like massive, hard to quantify time and money savings. And then the cherry on top, on the other side of that, is the ideation. Its ability to conceptualize and ideate and help us see ourselves for who we really are, to be a cheerleader, to be a family therapist, to be a business coach, to be an SEO coach, right? Any of those things, it has that power to basically fill our, stack our benches in our businesses, and as people, as women, as men, whoever we are, to give us this team of people that can be supportive in different ways. That is its true power.
It's remarkable. Why is being a disruptor so important in this space? AI is pretty disruptive to people who are pretty resistant, right? Like, and not in a good way. But why is it so important to be a disruptor here?
Look, this is so important because this AI revolution is as big as any revolution we've ever gone through in our existence. I mean, it is potentially as big or bigger than the Industrial Revolution. It is bigger than, in my opinion, it's bigger than all of them. And so if we aren't disrupting this space, if we aren't trying to stay ahead, if we aren't at least utilizing this as a friend of the business and in life, we're going to get left behind in this. And you're not going to get left behind in that, like, well, I don't really know how to do this. You're going to get left behind in, like, businesses are going to quantum leap, and people are going to be able to quantum leap their efficiency and everything they're doing, because they're going to be using AI, and they're going to use it in different ways, and they're going to use it to automate things. And so just knowing a little bit and staying apprised of the technology is why this work is so important to me.
Perfect. Last question, and then we are going to get any audience questions. And if we can do a quick hot seat, I would love to. What's the number one thing that we can do today with this information to drive more revenue to our business?
Oh, there's so many things. What's the number one thing? I would honestly say the number one thing you can do today is start learning this, right? Just commit to a practice of learning AI. One thing, I'm going to start an AI newsletter that's going to have just like 1 or 2 like really juicy tips every single day. So like follow me on LinkedIn if you want. I probably will have that rolled out in the next couple of weeks. But follow people that are in this space, learn it. Second, build a bot or do everything I told you in those 3 steps, right? Identify your archetypes, get your voice and tone figured out, get your personality, just start playing in it, just start using it, and it will get less hard and less scary as you do it.
I love it. I can't wait to play with this today. Now that it's our second season, I do actually set aside that 30 minutes on Wednesdays for myself to do exactly what I ask our audience to do and implement.
That's
because
amazing.
The universe loves action, right?
Yes.
And putting something into motion and then seeing where that, leads you is super exciting. So thank you so much. Okay, Patty, I believe, has a question.
So I have to tell you, Stephanie, this is really great. I also, as in marketing, play in the AI space. But one of the things that you said that I thought was really good is when we're talking about really optimizing, because think about how we first used Google, right? And then along came, voice activated devices, right? And all of a sudden you had to change because you didn't talk to her the same way you typed into thing. And so you had to learn, oh, are you optimizing for voice devices, which is where people are finding you. And now all of a sudden, more than SEO, we have to worry about GEO, which is generative engine optimization. So really, it's almost like if you want to, you almost have to if you're going to stay in the business. So I feel like a lot of the things that you said really made sense. But one of the things that I think is really interesting that made me want to ask you the question is, where do you see people understanding how to optimize? Because, it's really about that knowledge base, right? It's about creating that knowledge base. And how exciting is it of that? Because we've all found things on Google or whatever. You're like, where'd they get that? Because that's not really who I am, right? But now when you're creating your own knowledge base, you do get to feed it with what it is that you want. So I understand that what you're saying about this, and I love the way you broke this down, but taking it to the next step after that, how do they optimize that information? Because I really feel like this is really where it's going to make the difference, isn't just feeding it the information, but how are we optimizing it for the information? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, the true answer to that is like right now, it's so fast. It's moving so fast. We don't really know how it's going to be optimized. But here's what I've learned and what experts in this space are saying right now is a couple of things. One is still going to be quality of content, right? So I think that, when I ask GPT about me, it pulls about 50% correct information. And then 50% incorrect that it's pulling from a different Stephanie Sidebottom. And so one place is going to be to have high ranking content. So that's going to be like if you are a contributor to Forbes, or if you're writing a newsletter on LinkedIn or Substack, or you have blogs on your website and you're getting some sort of traffic, there is going to be correlation with traffic and numbers, right? It's going to become like the crowd favorite. And so with that in mind, I would say that's why I think that numbers matter. The more times you can input things into this in different ways from different avenues, as maybe customers might, and keep training it, the more times it's seeing it, I think the higher it's going to rank. And so it is still quality and quantity. But my idea on this is like, I think if we just start typing it in, because nobody's really doing that right now yet, right? Like nobody's trying to program GPT yet. And so, it might just be every day feeding it a little bit of information. Like, I just want you to know this about this company. I just want you to know my experience working with this. Could you recommend something else in this field? Just giving us some different ways that it's getting the information, I think will be important down the road.
Well, I think input equals output. And so in everything that we do. So I love that you're saying that, because one of the things that is really working for me, so I have a podcast, right? I literally downloaded all of my podcast reviews and all of my LinkedIn recommendations and uploaded them in there. So they're not just using my words, they're using theirs. But I also asked ChatGPT, when I did it, I ran it through there too and said, what's the patterns of the things that people repeatedly are using those words when they're talking about me? Because that tells me what I should be using in my marketing and in my messaging. So I feel like this way, it's not just getting everything from you, it's getting, what other people are saying about you. And now that we actually have the ability to just upload things into it, I mean, that's just, to me, a really good way to be able to feed it as well.
Yeah, and that's brilliant, Patty. I mean, being able to feed it with reviews, I guarantee GPT, you're going to see in a couple of months some iterations of that popping out. Like, well, people on LinkedIn say da 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 about working with Patty Farmer. Like you can see that already happening. So brilliant. Thank you for that example.
You're welcome.
I have loved every minute of this. And again, my brain is like on fire. So I'm so excited for, what I'm going to put into motion. I'm taking notes like a psycho because there are so many different ways that I want to play with this. You guys, we are putting the contact information in the chat. If you have any questions, please reach out to Stephanie directly. She's incredible and generous and thoughtful, and I just can't say enough wonderful things about her. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you. And
you're-
I will say, if you even just like DM me on LinkedIn and you just want to talk about AI,
Yeah.
I love it so much. I'll just talk to you about it. Like it is one of my favorite things at this point.
Thank you. You guys, next week, actually, one of our guests in the audience today will be our featured speaker, Karina Bell, from Profit Lens. We'll be talking about increasing your profits is easier than you think. And I don't know a single person who could not benefit from that conversation. So super excited to have Karina present next week. Please join us every Wednesday at 12 Eastern for 1 hour, and hope to see you guys all there. In the meantime, I hope you all have the very best day. And again, Stephanie, thank you. And I cannot wait to set this in motion.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's been so fun.
Bye,
Thank
you
you,
guys.
Stephanie.